We invite you to follow us on our social media as we highlight individuals making a difference in our culture. June is Black Music Month. Happy 41st anniversary.
Wow, that iconic, sultry, smooth, authoritative, precise voice right there is a legend, an icon in her own right. The one and only Dyana Williams is on the line. Give it up.
Dyana!
Yes. Yo.
Great morning to you.
Oh, my God.
Yes, thank you. Received and same to you.
Such a huge fan of yours, and I started in radio back in 91. On a station called 106 KMEL. And from there, I was able to learn from some really iconic personalities, Rennell, Rick Chase. There was a John London that was there. All of these names that were in the Bay Area, and they do some great things. But one of the things I learned, too, from them is the fundamentals of radio and how people learn to communicate in a way that could permeate across every ethnicity in a universal voice, permeate across any social status group, any tax bracket. And when I hear your voice, Dyana, you know what I mean? Like, I feel so much trust. I think I would believe anything you said to me, even if you wanted to sell me a cup of water and I'm standing in the ocean.
My goodness.
Yeah, I miss that kind of broadcasting, from individuals. How did it start? We're going to talk about Black Music Month and everything that's happening, but how did it? What was your first break? Like, where did it start?
Yeah, well, I'm from New York. I grew up in the Bronx and Harlem and Puerto Rico. I'm Afro-Rican. My mother was born and raised in Puerto Rico. My father from Culpeper, Virginia. But music was always a part of my life. Black music it's in my DNA. It's in most of our DNAs. But I started at WBAI, which was a listener-supported radio station, Pacifica, and not paid. But my first paid gig was at 96.3 WHUR in the nation's capital, which when I went there in 1973, it was still Chocolate City. So a gentleman by the name of Bob Nighthawk Terry, who you may have seen in the movie Talk to Me, hired me along with John Paul Simpson. So D.C. is where I started, and I've been doing radio in some shape, form, or fashion since 1972.
Since 19, give that a round of applause, please. You just don't let that happen. You just don't let that go by. Were you in and around Petey Green at that time?
Well, I knew Petey Green when I first moved to D.C. He was still on the radio. And, yes, the movie Talk to Me was about Petey Green.
Absolutely.
And, Dewey Hughes, a dear family friend, he was married to my best friend, Kathy Hughes, the founder of Radio 1, Urban 1. So, yes, I definitely knew Petey Green. He was legendary in radio in D.C. and in the community.
Absolutely. He was what he did on the radio. I studied Petey Green. Don Cheadle played him in Talk to Me. And the activism that he brought to the airwaves, the way he informed the community was incredible. People like Petey Green and Frankie Crocker, who you went on to work with as well, legendary voice. What was that experience like? Frankie Crocker.
Yeah. Frankie Crocker, the chief rocker. Frankie Crocker, of course, I was very aware of him. I was on the air doing middays at WHUR when he called me on the hotline. He offered me a job in St. Louis. That did not work out. Then he offered me a job in Chicago. That fell through. And then finally he called with the call and the invitation that I wanted, which was to return to New York, to my hometown city, and to do radio. So I was thrilled to have the opportunity to work with a gentleman that I consider the dean of Black radio, the person who gave us the term urban radio. That came from Hal Jackson, Frankie Crocker in New York. And Hal Jackson, another legendary broadcaster, was one of my mentors, in addition to Frankie hiring. But Frankie was a tough boss. But guess what? It made me a better broadcaster to come up under Frankie Crocker, because I was still young in the game. I had just turned 21 when he hired me. So it was thrilling to be on the air with Lamar Renee and Ken Webb and just some legendary broadcasters in addition to Frankie Crocker.
What was it at that time? Why was it necessary to distinguish the title urban radio away from just a broad stroke of radio in general?
Well, advertising. I think that Frankie Crocker felt that it was a term that would best describe, and we're talking about WBLS was the number one station, beating out even the white stations overall in the market. So he understood that urban, urban meaning a community, urbane, city, but also in an effort to attract the advertisers on Madison Avenue who refused to spend their dollars at a black radio station. So he was making an effort to even the playing field and get more dollars for black radio and advertising as we richly deserved. Black radio has faced discrimination just like it is a major player in the music industry as well. So he was trying to even out the playing field, and it worked for a bit, but racism and discrimination prevail. They're just such terrible ills of humanity.
Miss Dyana Williams, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show. This is Heather. Thank you for calling in as well. I grew up, and then fellow Scorpio sister Tracy G. She's a Scorpio as well.
Yes.
I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, here on the East Coast, and I remember Frankie Crocker being on the radio. I remember that. I'm not sure of the years though. Can you tell me what years that was when you worked with him?
I was there in 1975. That's when I worked with Frankie Crocker. I started in 75 until 76. I did overnight. So, but in New York radio, overnights is still a major thing. So I learned so much from him. I learned about, first of all, Frankie Crocker, because he was the program director, he was on from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Right.
It was an experience listening to Frankie. He played, he might drop George Clinton and then come back with Frank Sinatra my way. He had the ability to do that because he was the program director, and he was integrating radio in a very unique and special way. But he just had a smooth, silky delivery and a capacity that was compelling to engage millions of people. And to this day, he is, for me, one of the best broadcasters, period, of any color that I've ever heard or experienced.
Wow. Dyana Williams is here. This is I'm thrilled to have you on this show. Thank you for being on this show. We got to have you. We got to have you come on a little more often too, just for your commentating, because I know you do a lot of commentating across the board. But I do want to talk about Black Music Month and why this was it President Jimmy Carter who decreed that June would be the month of black music. You, Kenny Gamble, and others were able to make this possible for us to celebrate this contribution. This was back in 1979?
Absolutely. Well, Sway, Kenny Gamble, my ex, had the concept of developing a period of time where we could concentrate energy and recognition and celebration around the majesty of black music and the economic power that it generates. We don't think of it that way, but the reality is black music generates not hundreds, not thousands, not millions, but billions and many billions of dollars. Black music right now is the number one, and I say black music, I'm referring specifically to the genre of hip-hop that you all play daily. Black music is the number one selling genre around the planet, not just in America. So what does that tell us? We are big business, and we're a big cultural influence around the planet. So June Black Music Month is a concentrated month for us to celebrate the three of you. It is an opportunity for us to say we influence other genres of music. Everybody from Elton John to Eric Clapton, to the Beatles, to the Rolling Stones have cited black music as the wellspring of their influence and the basis of their music. We do not get compensated like they do. Again, racism rearing its ugly head in our creativity.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Hey, Miss Williams, this is Tracy. I just had to jump in there, Sway. She was talking to my heart. I would love to know your opinion, because inspiration and appropriation there's a fine line. If someone can be vocal about the fact that they are heavily influenced by Black music in the way they create, but let's just say they're also a very loud and proud Trump supporter and have never been vocal about Black lives until maybe they feel the pressure of society on them now, does that still count as being a supporter? Are you still under the influence, or are you under the appropriation?
Well, it depends on what they're doing. I mean, there's a lot of appropriation going on, a lot of imitation. It's nothing new. Black people have been imitated since we were brought over here, period. We were forced immigrants, and our music has been duplicated, replicated, imitated by people who are Republicans, Trump supporters, everyone. My thing is, you can appreciate our art, you can appreciate our creativity, pay us, respect us. And that's the part that is missing. The music industry has been built just like America. Remember when Michelle, our forever First Lady, said that she was proud to live in a house that was built by Black people? Ooh, white people were offended. A lot of white people were like, what are you talking about? But the reality is, not only did we build the White House, we built many other institutions, physical buildings, but the free labor that Black people provided to white people and white supremacists, we know it. So Black people, and we have not been compensated nor respected. So I have problems when people take our culture, profit from it more than we do, and don't give us credit. So I'm grateful to the artists that at least say, like an Adele. Adele said she grew up on Black music. Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight. Thank you for recognizing that, Adele. A lot of her musicians are Black. But pay us. Pay our Black executives. Pay the three of you. Pay you what your white counterparts are getting. So there's no equity because of racism, and it permeates every aspect of our culture, of our society, not just in America, but around the planet.
Dyana Williams is here. Big round of applause. I want to keep this conversation going because you even see it in the platforms from radio stations, radio conglomerates, record labels, brands that all funnel our culture, profit from our culture. And then you look in their boardrooms and you don't see any of our faces. You look in their C-suites where the CEOs are, you don't see any of our faces. The people in the power positions to allocate budgets, make decisions. The people are making decisions about our music and our culture, and we're not there. And this is one of the reasons why the work you're doing is especially so important, and that we are able to sit here and talk about it. Black Music Month is June. I want to also talk about you on the board of the directors at the National Museum of African American Music. And you guys are, you officially opened your doors Labor Day weekend?
Yes. And let me just invite all of you right now, the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville, in the heart of downtown Nashville on 5th and Broadway. We have 56,000 square feet, 7 galleries. We are depicting every genre of Black music. Our curators and our ethnomusicologists are some amazing Black folks. Let me just say that. I did a hard hat visit last year, and it was still all just concrete. But I cannot wait for September 2020 when we open the doors, of course, given what's going on with the pandemic. We'll see what's happening. Our intention is to open. But I must tell you, from the 1600s to right now, we are documenting indigenous American music. That is for everybody. That's the beauty of our music. It is a universal language. It is a healing force. But this museum is a teaching institution that's going to elevate everybody who walks through our doors to understand the majesty and the power that is our music that we created right here in America. From field hollers straight up to trap music, it's going to be all in this great museum. I am so honored to be a part of the board and also the co-chair with LaRon Rogers of the Music Industry Relations Collective, a group of people who really care about the protection and the preservation of our music. So you guys, ladies and gentlemen, have to come and experience this, because if you've been to the National Museum of African American History have you been yet? So, okay, we get confused with that museum. You got to go.
Okay, you got to get us tickets.
Okay, yeah. Oh, right, exactly. How about that? But consider yourselves invited now. I will make a trip to Nashville. I live in Philly, but I will make a trip to escort you through the museum, because it's a place where you can bring your children, your grandchildren, your elders, and there's something for everyone in our museum. So people can go to blackmusicmuseum.org. We have a beautiful visual of the museum, a video that will take you through the galleries. It's really exciting. It's the culmination of my life's work, the celebration of Black music and culture, all in one place.
I don't know if you know this, but, Heather B and I both put out albums. She put out The Taking Mine and Internal Affairs. I put out Concrete Jungle. Can we get our albums in the museum?
Sure. No, listen, real talk. Heather, I'm asking you both now. Share with us some of your memorabilia. We'll be happy to put it in the museum.
Oh,
absolutely,
my God.
And that's what we're also asking artists. And if your family has memorabilia that you think should be seen by the community at large, go to blackmusicmuseum.org. But yes, we do want your albums. We want, we're celebrating, like I said, all genres of music. And we want it to be, it's a contemporary museum as well. It's not one of your old-fashioned kind of museums. It is pretty spectacular. So, yes, we definitely would love to have
I'm so glad you said that, Dyana, because over the years, we've been talking to artists about, when we understand that technology has advanced so much, and you definitely have to take advantage of technology, but as artists, we have to understand that what we do is art. And I've been trying to tell these artists, write your lyrics, write your music down, because it's art. These notebooks and these pieces of paper and these different things that we create on is art, but there will be museums and all different kind of things later on, and we are a part of that history. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's important that you have notebooks and different things and where the creative process came from. We have to start really preserving our art, man.
No question. These are our artifacts.
Yes.
This is for future generations when they look back. For them, knowledge is power. Y'all know that. And so for them to be able to look back and see what we did, how we did it, that is significant. And it's the same thing we need to be doing. We need to study the past and understand the Big Mama Thorntons and the Ma Rainey's and the Billie Holiday, all the great artists in every genre. Harry Belafonte, he was more than an artist. He was a music activist as well. He used his platform to deal with the ongoing issue of racism and the violation of our civil rights in America. So our music, and when you think about the power of Black music, we're the clarion voices. We share the messages. And look, when I talk about hip-hop being dominant, look at all the storytelling. The griots in Africa were the storytellers that preserved and perpetuated the history. I look at hip-hop artists that way as well. There are modern-day griots.
Woo, Dyana Williams is here. Hang on with us, okay? Because I hope it's something we can do with that opening weekend at the National Museum of African American Music with our show, with our team. I don't know, maybe. I don't know what it's going to be like with the pandemic, but I'm sure there's something we can do. I want to open up the phone lines. If you would wish to speak with Dyana Williams, the iconic Dyana Williams, who's with us, 888-742-3345. Let's take them back. You mentioned the name, so I got to go back and dig in my crates. You know what I got to do. Come on, let's go. Gamble and Huff.
Written by Kenny Gamble, Leon A. Huff.
There you go.
Philadelphia.
Let's party. Come on. Sway in the morning, Shane 45. Hey. Got that. Okay.
Smart.
Thank you. That voice right there is Dyana Williams, radio icon, also, just activist, and then also the CEO of Influence Entertainment, which is a consultant and artist development firm, which is similar to what people would do in A&R in the music business. She coaches high-profile celebrities in sports, entertainment arenas, from everyone from the Dave Matthews Band to Neo to Rihanna to Justin Bieber, all of these folks, Usher, Erykah Badu, A$AP Rocky. And folks don't realize that professionals need professionals to really guide them on how to be proper professionals, and
Right.
Real talk. Yeah.
real talk, because you could get lost in it sometimes. For example, one of your clients, Neo, was supposed to be on the show today and he canceled in the last minute. What would you say to him?
I'm dead.
Oops. What happened?
Wow, Sway.
Yeah, no, that's my brother. I can say that. He know I'm joking with him, but no, he had a family situation he had to deal with. But
Right.
have you ever had to do troubleshooting for without having to necessarily name the person? But did you ever have
Oh, no,
to
I'll
do?
be happy to name it. And
Okay.
he acknowledges it. And I was with him pretty much for 8 years during his signing his tenure at Atlantic Records. T.I., one of my favorite clients.
Oh my
Tip.
gosh, he's so
I worked
brilliant.
with Tip for 8 years.
Uh-huh.
And, he was very easy because what Tip and I would do is we would sit, have conversations. He's very articulate, extremely smart, insightful, and very conscious. But I was with him through every arrest, every incarceration, all of that, books, movies, TV shows. And we would just get together and talk about how to best communicate to his audiences what he was doing, how he was feeling. And so he was very, very easy to work, even though it was painful when he was incarcerated, because you don't want to see anybody incarcerated. And I remember going to the Larry King show with him to the CNN building in Los Angeles. He was doing his first big interview post one of his releases, and they showed a video of all the guns. It was like the camera panned, like a long pan. And when I saw all the guns and the silencers, and I was like, Chip, why didn't you just hire security? I mean, he had enough guns for a small army. But his best friend had been shot and killed. And, he's from the hood. That's, it was protection. He was protecting his family. And so, yes, Tip is one of my favorite artists. But I've done crisis. I don't like doing it that much. But if I can help someone out to get out of a situation that is uncomfortable, I work with the publicist, the manager, and the lawyer, as well as the artist, to frame what we discuss about the crisis.
I remember that crisis because I remember when he got picked up right before the awards show. And they set him up on, I believe, if I can recall correctly, on buying some guns, and that was for Lant Johnson, who was killed in Cincinnati. And
Yes,
Tip
sir.
was with him what had happened. And the reason why I know this is because during that time, I got a chance. Tip and I consider him like family. That's like a brother to me. And I was doing work with MTV, and we did a show called Redemption. And right after he got out, and him and I sat and had a one-on-one conversation. The thing that impressed me most about him, and we're talking way back then, is we also went into community. And I watched him interact with grade school kids, like elementary kids to junior high to high school. And he has such a natural knack to communicate and get their attention where I've never saw anything like it. And I just saw him in a whole new light and knew that his promise would become what it has. Now you see him on the front lines speaking out for the people as one of our most potent activists that are out there right now in these protests. And as we go through this pandemic and as we go through this national crisis in these protests, you see T.I. And this, you see him in ways you never thought you would see him. No one would know that there was somebody behind the scenes guiding that. You know what I mean? So everybody needs somebody, right?
Yeah, but he's pretty self-directed at this point. He and I were texting just last week. I have great respect for Tip. I actually coached his wife, Tiny, when Escape was in its first incarnation, and their daughter, Zonique. So that's the first family where I've worked with parents and a child as well. It's a great family. Being in their home, you feel so much love. What you see on television, their interaction, that's real. And they are so down to earth and such gracious people. I love anytime I go visit with the Harris family.
That's beautiful. We got a few people online right now that would like to speak with you. Ellen is in Canada. Say hello to Dyana Williams. Ellen, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Ellen.
Hello?
Ellen, yes, Ellen, good morning. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We hear you. Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is My name is Erin.
Oh, Aaron, my bad.
That's why she didn't know who
Hi,
she was talking to.
I'm calling you guys from the beautiful shores of Lake Manitoba First Nation, off the shores of the Lake Manitoba itself. And I'd like to say that we as a community, we took in part of our Black Lives Matter protest in Winnipeg, which saw over 15,000 people come out in support.
Oh, that's
Wow.
We
amazing.
appreciate that. We appreciate your
15,000
support.
people. We were blown away, and you know the speakers, the messages that they gave were so hit hard, so to home. Because us as Indigenous people up in Canada, we
Yeah.
just are oppressed the same way as Black people of the state.
Yeah.
And we support you 100 up here.
Aaron,
We
Well,
appreciate and
let you know
salute
that.
you. Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Deanna. Talk to her.
I was saying we are in solidarity with you. We appreciate your solidarity with us because racism is real, and it's not just here in America. It has been exported to every name a place. It's there. We see the Aboriginal people in Australia rising up. We see oppressed Black people in Europe, in Asia, all over the world. Why we are so feared? Well, you know, it's interesting because we're beloved and feared at the same time. They take, you know, when we were talking about the appropriation of our culture, come now. They love us and hate us at the same time. Come on, people.
Absolutely. You know what? It's so sad that there's so much racism, but yet they're listening to all Black music. That's all I hear. Black music.
Yeah.
And if they you know, it's so stupid. But I did wanted to bring, I did not know that there was racism in radio. The only time I ever heard about racism in radio was when I watched the movie Ray. And I remember this one part where the producer went and shoved money in the guy's pocket just to play his record.
That's called payola.
Yeah.
Yeah, racism everywhere, not just in radio. It's in every strata of human existence.
There you go.
Everywhere.
There you go. Aaron, thank you. And to our First Nation brothers and sisters, we stand in solidarity with you as well. Thank you, Aaron. And Aaron, you're a citizen.
A Sway in the morning.
Okay, we're gonna go to let's go to Seth in Tennessee. Seth, good morning. How you doing?
What up, Seth?
Big Seth.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up, bro?
What's up?
Nothing much. This is the second time I got on. It works.
Yeah, it works, man. You gotta be persistent. Go. You have a question for Deanna?
I have a question. Good morning to everybody. Is everybody okay?
Good morning.
All of that, you know. Okay. I heard you mention September, Nashville, and the event that's going to be going on. I am I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but I travel back and forth between there, Nashville, and Atlanta and different areas. I have a media platform, e-commerce platform, video live streaming platform that I'm working on developing and launching, and I was hoping to get some information about the event to see if I could provide coverage and show, some events from my perspective of what happens that day on my platform.
I would encourage you to go to blackmusicmuseum.org and just go through, how to get in touch and write them, send an email and say, this is what I'm interested in doing, and I'm sure someone will get back to you. That's blackmusicmuseum.org. I said .com. It's .org, blackmusicmuseum.org.
Give it a shot,
Thank you for your interest.
Very helpful information. Thank you a lot.
All right, you're a citizen, bro.
Sway in the morning.
All right, let's go to Arkansas. We got Kurt on the line. Good morning, Kurt. How you doing?
Kurt.
Hey,
Hey, Kurt.
what's going on? How you all doing?
Oh, man.
What up,
Excellent.
All right. Yeah, I was calling in because my son, D'Angelo, is a full sail graduate with a degree in creative writing, and he's created this audio book about the Elaine Massacre of 1919, which gave us was a big landmark decision by the Supreme Court that helped us in the civil rights movement. But he wanted to make a audio book with a soundtrack, and he has writing skills, but for his marketing, we at a standstill because you got a lot of white companies that are telling us it's too dark to tell, and we ran into this with several other projects. They're saying it's too dark, but we wanted to blend in the music along with the storytelling in an audio book. So I wanted to know what Dyana suggests, just how you should go about marketing.
I would suggest you do it yourself. Create your website, use the internet. There are plenty of artists, I'm sure, music makers in your community. Put something out on your son's social media. When you said D'Angelo is my best friend. So I was like, wait, you're talking about the D'Angelo, Michael Archer? But that's what I would suggest, that your son, Full Sail, is an excellent school. My oldest son, Khalif Gamble, went there first for his associate's degree and then went back and got his bachelor's degree. Great school. I'm sure your son has enough colleagues from his school experience that he can tap on to help him get soundtrack music for his project. And I say, don't go to other people. Own that which you create. Encourage your son to keep owning that which he makes and use social media to promote it and the internet to get it out to the world.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Kurt. Kurt, thank you very much, man. You are a citizen. I apologize. We just got a lot of people online, Kurt. But the Elaine massacre that happened in Little Rock, I think.
No, it was Elaine, Arkansas.
Elaine, Arkansas. My bad. And that was the massacre that sharecroppers were fighting for fair wages, right?
That's what history say, but actually it was a Confederate general named James Tappan. When he got killed, that's what sparked the whole outrage and had everybody come from everywhere, because even though the Union won the war, the Confederacy wasn't done. So people were coming in from everywhere, massacring black people at will. And they shut the whole town down for James Tappan's funeral. The stories that you hear is a lot of BS. For instance, like Emmett Till, it's a guy in Glendora, Mississippi. His daddy was the one who helped dispose of Emmett Till's body, and he tells the story of how one guy got jealous and killed him, a black guy, but Emmett Till got a lot of exposure. But it's a whole lot of history in that area, even in Shabuta, Mississippi, where in 1942 you had two young men, Charles Lane and Ernest Green, that was hung for the same exact thing Emmett Till done.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of history. But you can visit our Instagram at Too Dark Productions.
Too Dark Productions.
Got a lot of history on it. Yes.
Too Dark Productions. I'm about to follow you now. These are the stories you don't learn in the history books.
They're not consistent.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Kurt. You a citizen, man.
Sway in the morning.
Dyana, I want you to give out your social. You got Nubin from West Virginia, Ben in Edmonton, Jamila in Los Angeles, Warwick in Virginia, Dante in Massachusetts. All of these people on the lines, they have questions for you. How can they reach you if they could hit you directly on your social?
Yes, I can be reached at Dyana, Dyana Williams. That is my social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. That's Dyana Williams. And my website is influenceentertainment.com. I can be reached through there as well.
Wow. Thank you for joining us. And I want to invite you to come back, and
I would love to.
And let's just chop it up, Dyana. Okay?
I would love that. Kudos to you. We're celebrating you during Black Music Month as well, because you are advancing our culture, our music. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you for being on. I'm going to be floating for the rest of the day. You can't tell me nothing right now.